So picture this, right? The camera starts in the sky, slowly panning down as the clouds separate, and you see a city that's peaceful, when you see a red blur flash across the road. A narrator tells you that if you're to listen to this story, you must believe in what is impossible. And he tells you that the red blur, in fact, was him. So today we're going to be talking about a TV series that I used to love and watch religiously, and I do like it. And I've noticed this decrease in quality over the last couple of years in the show, and it's really upset me and has wanted me to actually make a review on it. And what I described at the beginning of this video was the intro to the first ever episode of The Flash. And I love that intro so much because it not just foreshadows what you're going to see, but it makes you actually understand what you're going to see. You're believing in the impossible here.
That's not possible.
Let's agree to disagree.
But that's not the first time we've ever seen The Flash. In fact, we actually see The Flash for the first time ever in the Arrow TV series in Season 3. In one episode, we meet a forensic scientist known as Barry Allen, who's basically a nerd and a nobody. His character is made just to think, yeah, that's cringe. And he actually learns who the identity of the Arrow is and saves the Arrow from death. His character is great, but what you find out in this episode that his mother was murdered by something that was impossible. Notice the repetitive use of the word impossible before the show's been created. And Barry Allen, since that day, has been non-stop trying to find out what killed his mother. It shows Barry's character before he's even the Flash. You see this man who loves science, the man who legitimately works as a scientist. He's seeking to make it right within himself and for his father, who's been imprisoned by being framed by the impossible. So, now cut to the Flash, where Barry Allen is struck by a lightning bolt.
Oh, shit.
This is the plot of Season 1 within legit 30 seconds. So you meet Barry Allen, who gets struck by lightning, becomes the Flash. He meets up with a team of scientists, Cisco Ramon, who's a pop culture lover and really smart man. You meet Dr. Caitlin Snow, who is still trying to get over the death of her fiance Ronnie, and you meet Dr. Harrison Wells, probably the smartest person in the country at the time. Throughout the show, you see this team work together as they not just bond as friends, but they work together to save the city from other people who've been turned into the impossible. But slowly as the show progresses, you find out that Harrison Wells is not the man he says he is. No, he is not just a man in a wheelchair. No, Harrison Wells is not just a scientist, but he's from the future. And no, he's not just from the future. He was the man who killed Barry's mother.
Boom! Big reveal!
Now, is it a good plot twist villain? No. It's really obvious that it was Harrison throughout the whole show, but at the same time, it's the most emotional plot twist. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what actually makes this show good. And what this show did was it got reality and the impossible and merged it together and created a really good show. One thing that I really liked in the behind the scenes of this show is they said they wanted to try and keep the science as realistic as possible. One episode I think really demonstrates this is Season 1, Episode 5, Plastique, where a girl has the ability to turn anything she touches into a bomb. And when she blows up a part of a building, two men who are window cleaners are falling off. Now Barry says, hey, why don't we get a whole bunch of mattresses and stack them up so if the guy falls, he'll hit the mattress and, be safe. And Caitlin goes, Barry, this isn't a Looney Tunes cartoon, mate. Like, they'll die. So they have to work out a real way to get up. They have to do they have to do as quick math as possible, and they didn't have enough time to even do that, so he had to just run up the side of the building hoping that he'll get it right, keep his velocity on the way down, and save the man. I love this scene. I love it. Because in this scene, you see the truth of this show. It is not fairy tale, happy, jappy goodness. What if science was to meet the impossible. Now that's what I love about Flash Season 1, it does ground itself in some level of reality. But even the story aspect is actually really clever. Because, as I said, Harrison Wells is found out to be the Reverse Flash, aka Eobard Thawne. What I like about it is it's an underlying thread. It's a plot that is not just so obvious and there. It's not too obvious, especially to the characters it's not too obvious. It's something that they slowly have to come to terms with. It's something that they're scared to tell their friends about when they find out the truth. It's something that they originally deny when they first hear it, until he attacks them in the season's end. It is something that is really well done, and to get to that point it took a lot. You see time travel playing into an effect, you see manipulation of people, you see murder to try and keep secrets secret. And the motive of the Reverse Flash even makes sense. It's not just, I don't like good, I'm gonna do bad stuff, bruh. No, it was, he wanted to get home. That's why he faked being someone he wasn't, to try and use the Flash to build up his trust, to get him fast enough to use the Flash to get back to the future. But the plan of Eobard Thawne's time travel to get back to the future backfires, and it creates a black hole above Central City, opening up a gateway to the whole entire multiverse. Infinite Earths, all of the same version, just split apart. And what we find out is that there's another speedster on another Earth by the name of Zoom, or the Speed Demon as they called him originally. Zoom is ruthless. All he wants to do is get faster and powerful. He's a psycho, and a man who's been fighting him for ages is Jay Garrick. And Barry, after having his trust broken by Harrison Wells, is not too trusting of Jay in the beginning. In fact, he locks him up in a cell. It's pretty epic. Throughout the show, you see the same bonding as you saw in Season 1. You see the characters learning who they are. Cisco, in fact, starts learning that he is actually, in fact, a metahuman as well, with powers himself, but he's not even happy with that. He has to grow and learn to use it. Just like their friendship in this show, it has to be slow and gradual progress. It's not just, oh, cool, I can do this now? That's pretty cool. And still things are grounded in some level of science. And even Barry Allen's character is really interesting in Season 2, because he's still chasing the Reverse Flash. Even though Reverse Flash is dead, he's psychologically still trying to defeat the Reverse Flash, because he doesn't feel like he won. Wait, no. It leads to episode 5, I believe, of Season 2, 5 or 4, called Enter Zoom, which, can I say, is a play on script writing, where it's like, when a character enters the scene, it's enter that character's name. So Enter Zoom would be a script thing. But Barry gets too cocky and not just gets his ass whooped, he is defeated and his back is smashed to pieces. He was nearly killed, but he wasn't. Now you might go, oh, that's convenient that the bad guy didn't kill the good guy, but there's a reason why. And I'll get to that later, and I love it. So throughout Season 2, you see threats from other worlds coming to Earth. You have to see the characters going from Earth to Earth. You see Barry Allen go into the past to find the original Reverse Flash to get advice. And in this case, the villain is even just a tiny bit smarter than the Reverse Flash. He's a tiny bit smarter, tiny bit faster, and he's just a tiny bit better. It is terrifying to see this Speed Demon, and of course there's the plot twist where Jay Garrick ends up being, you know, the Zoom. We all saw that one coming, let's not lie there. But we find out a whole bunch of things, like something we've seen from the very beginning, and that is that Zoom's lightning has been blue. Now the reason being is he's been taking a speed drug to speed him up. This drug causes cellular degeneration. It sets in play everything else that you see in the season, but you don't even realize you're seeing it unfold. And that's what I love about The Flash Season 1 and 2. You see things unfold without realizing it. Seriously, I recommend watching Season 1 and 2 of The Flash. Watch through it, and then watch through it again, and see what you see the second time around. Like, there were times where Harrison Wells makes jokes about, like, Reverse Flash themed things, without you even realizing he is the Reverse Flash. I love it. And in the end, Zoom does actually win at some level. You see, Zoom takes the Flash's speed, curing his cellular degeneration, and depowering the Flash completely. Now, why would this happen? Well, you see, what Barry did was he basically paid a ransom for a friend's life. And that shows the Flash. He's sacrificial. And the season finale is basically Zoom wants to destroy the multiverse to show how powerful he is. Become the god of the multiverse by destroying it. Now, I remember I said about the Reverse Flash, it's like, hey, he's not just bad for the sake of being bad. Well, that is the difference with Zoom. He was a psychopath. You even find out that Zoom actually was known as Hunter Zolomon, who started off with a very similar origin story to the Flash, where his mother was killed, but you see how they split off. One becomes a hero, and one becomes a psycho. Then season 3 rolls around, where the writers of the Flash realize we need to one-up both Reverse Flash and Zoom. How do we do that? Now, okay, so at the end of season 2, and this is one of those things where I'm like, Barry goes back in time, stops his mother's death, and creates a brand new reality. Now, this reality is known as Flashpoint, and it is very interesting, because everything's different. We even see a new Flash known as Kid Flash. You even see Reverse Flash now held prisoner by Barry Allen. Which, can I say, this brand new Reverse Flash is what causes the Reverse Flash to come back to life for later seasons, but we'll get into that later. Barry realized that he can't do it. It's a long story, watch the season, but he has to revert Flashpoint back to the original state, but by changing the timeline a second time, even if it's close to what the original timeline is, it's not the same. And that's what the whole season 3 is about. It's the fallout of Barry's mistakes. And I love that because it actually shows a flaw in the character. And that's where we need to get into this. This is where the seasons start to get a bit rough, so hear me out. So season 3 of The Flash introduced us to a new villain called Savitar. A giant transformer, basically. He is the speed god, known as the first speedster to ever exist. No one knows who he is, and he's just terrifying. And in trying to defeat Savitar, he gets thrusted into the future, and he sees the death of his love interest, Iris West, and that's what plays through this whole series. Can you change the future? And throughout the whole series, you actually see Barry doing everything he possibly can with his team to defeat Savitar or just stop the future entirely. They have a list of all the things that they've seen will happen before the death of Iris, and they're crossing it off, trying hopefully to change it. But in the end of the season, it's really nothing works. You see Iris still gets stolen by Savitar, and he still will win. Now here's the thing, right? In this theme of plot twist villains, you see Savitar is also a plot twist villain. Guess who he is? Savitar's the Flash. Yeah, he's legit the Flash. I'm not kidding. He is genuinely the Flash. Now, I'm not going to get into the heebie-jeebie of how realistic this is, and plus, I never really liked the whole Savitar is the Flash thing, but it works in some sort of level. That's why he wanted to kill Iris. He wanted to show Barry, the real Barry, what it was like to feel that pain. You see Savitar take Iris onto the place where he will die. Barry tries to save Iris, and he fails. Iris gets stabbed right through the chest. Zoom runs off in victory. So Savitar's won. He still gets created. He's won by killing Iris, and until you find out that H.R. Wells, a version of Harrison Wells from the multiverse, swapped place with Iris, meaning Iris is still alive, and a genuinely good character died. And this is the biggest mistake the Flash could have made. In turn, that does mean Savitar ceases to exist, and the whole final episode is about Savitar going to die, but Savitar's got to try and beat Barry before he dies, but it doesn't happen. But letting Iris live shows that the Flash will win 100% of the time. The Flash is completely victorious. I genuinely hated this. So, here's the thing, right? Now we have to roll into season 4, and this is where everything starts to go to shit. So, think about it, right? Reverse Flash, he's cool, right? Now we need to one-up him by Zoom. Now we need to one-up him by Savitar. How do you one-up literal God? They scrapped the whole speedster idea and they said, you know what, screw it. Let's make a character who's super, super smart. The Thinker from the comics. And not just the Thinker, he is so bloody smart that he outwits Barry in every single turn, every twist, everything. There is not a single thing the Thinker can't think of. Wow, I said that. And this is where the series realized its faults. So what is the plan of the Thinker? Well, you see, the Thinker's plan is he wants to try and cause what is called the Enlightenment, where he will wipe the intelligence of the entire globe, forcing everyone into this neutral state where they have no intelligence whatsoever, so then he becomes the one true smart person, even though technically he already is the one true smart person, so that makes no sense, but he is now the smartest one. In this season, you see the rise of Kid Flash and Killer Frost and all of them, and it loses its touch, in my opinion. Remember what I said at the beginning of the show, how it was about impossible mixed with reality? Well, it loses that touch at this point. Everything is done is just, that's cool, that'll work. And what ends up happening is, by the end of the show, they defeat this amazingly smart villain by outsmarting him. And it's so unfair, it doesn't make sense, and it hurts. Now, there are some redeeming features of Season 4, where, like, Ralph Dibny becomes, like, the student to the Flash, and he's really cool. I like that. But it does feel like just a Jim Carrey ripoff. Very much so. I haven't bothered to buy the 5th season, because the 5th season is bad. Let me introduce to you Nora Allen, the daughter of Barry Allen. Everything about this season is garbage. Remember what I said about realism? That is thrown so far out the window, it's not funny. Barry Allen keeps getting into fights with Nora. Nora's like, and then Iris does her, oh, come on, we can win with the power of teamwork and friendship. Whee! And we are the Flash. It's the most stupid, I hate when she says. Every episode just feels like the same episode, but over again. There's actually an episode that I really want to talk about, and it actually links up to the episode that I talked about in the beginning. There's this guy who can affect gravity, and he causes the Flash to fly up like hundreds of thousands of meters in the air. Now, they were like, okay, how do we stop a man from falling from like 100,000 meters up in the air? How do we stop that? I have an idea. And Ralph turns into a giant pillowcase, because he's stretchy and shit. And he turns into a giant pillow, and the Flash hits the pillow, and he's safe. What? Remember what I said? Remember what they said at the beginning? This isn't a Looney Tunes. This is not a Looney Tunes cartoon. What? Like, oh, I get it. They're superheroes. They can do what they want. But wasn't the one thing that separated this superhero show from everything else that it was grounded in some level of realism when it used actual science to define what was happening? Like, remember the guy who made things slow? Yeah, he was based off the idea of how he turned kinetic energy into potential energy by reversing the process. There are so many reasons to how things work in this show. Even in the first season, they talk about how they can't unmetify someone. They can't. Even in the first season, they say how it's impossible for them to turn a metahuman, a super guy, into a normal person, a non-super guy, because their DNA is so wrapped up in the metagenes. But in the 4th season, they're like, oh, guys, we made a cure. Did you know you could just, like, stab yourself with, like, a little thingy, and it will, like, just unravel your DNA instantly? Like, even poison. You know, literal poison that can kill you takes around 7 minutes to kill you. So you're telling me you can unravel everyone's DNA within, like, that much time? Of this season. The Season 5 main villain is bad. Because they thought, okay, how do we one-up the Thinker? They didn't. They thought, how about we make him like a normal human who can get beat the shit out of, but he can take away people's powers. This guy is called Cicada, and he basically is shit. He is shit. So Cicada, what he does is he has this dagger which can remove people's superpowers so he can beat them up, but not to mention the fact that Cicada is a really bad villain because he can get beat up himself, and he often does. He often does come back home in pain, meaning he's just a normal guy. Like, So the season feels really dragged out because there's like a million times they could have beat him, but they don't. It's like the Batman to Superman example, or the Alien vs Predator. You can't remove Predator's weapons to make it a fair fight. You can't remove Superman's powers to make it a fair fight, because it's just saying, oh, Batman vs man, Alien vs guy. It's not good script writing, it's just saying, hey, this guy's a bit too good, so let's not make him good anymore. Now we can beat him. In the end, we find out that the main villain was the Reverse Flash from the future, who is locked up in prison. I like this. I like the idea that they've brought back the Reverse Flash, not as the main villain, but he's kind of like the underlying main villain who's planned out everything through the series. This reminds me of Season 1, where everything was planned out behind the scenes. You see it unfold but don't realise it. And that's what was happening in Season 5. Everything was playing out as the Reverse Flash was planning it to play out, but you don't realise it until the end. I'll give it that. I will give it that. And the ending is pretty good because they kill the girl. But I cannot forgive Season 6 of The Flash. It's not even over because it's been cancelled by No-No, so it's going to come back later, but honestly, I can't forgive it. I can't. It is the most lazy thing I've ever seen. It is so lazy. So Season 6 of The Flash is about a guy called Bloodworks, who basically started off as a scientist whose mum died from cancer, which is a pretty good, reasonable origin story. And he basically wants to find out the cure to death. You heard that right. He wants to become immortal. And he also used this like blood-like thing, where what it does is, by infecting himself, the more people he kills and hurts, salvation basically, and saving people is to, live. Oh, you guys wanted a plot? Oh, no, he's the bad guy, that's it. And there are so many times, once again, where you think he should have been defeated, but he's just not, because, hey, reasons. And then halfway through, you think that he actually gets defeated. In a way, he kind of gets defeated. And then a new villain is basically a thing, where Iris West is now not Iris West, but an evil Iris West who acts exactly like Iris West, which doesn't make sense, but she does. And, I'm not getting into it. It's just so bad. So, do I recommend you watch The Flash? Yes, 100%. The first 2 seasons, yes. Maybe the third if you're feeling a bit risky. But after that, don't. It just becomes lazy. Saying, oh, we think we're doing the right thing by being evil. That is not a motive. So, if you enjoyed this, I'm doing more of these types of movie reviews and film reviews. If you have any suggestions, pop them down below.